All right, well, let's see here. So the white highlight is dry on the Bretonnian peasants. The Spellcrow dragon is resting off camera, and so let me show you a couple of things here. So this is kind of like how 10 millimeter kind of like fantasy or historical wargaming kind of works. It's like multiple models or miniatures on a single base. Now, typically, Warmaster is played on a 40 by 20 millimeter base. And so if you just had these two miniatures, they would be like right up against each other and that base would be really small. I like to play this game and similar games at a different sort of, not at the same scale, but with different bases. And so this is, instead of a 40 by 20 millimeter base, which is what is, I guess, standard for games like Warmaster, I like to play these games on a with a 100 millimeter width and a 50 millimeter depth. In doing so, it gives you a better scale of grandeur whenever you see the miniatures on the table, and those bases are just really tiny, and it just makes the game a little bit more epic, which I think is the whole point in playing at such a small scale. I just wanted to show you all that. We'll get to basing, but let's see what our Bretonnian peasants are up to. So you can see that they're all nice and dry. I'm going to remove that base. And then let's start by applying a little bit of paint to these miniatures. Now the key, whenever you have like multiple miniatures, small miniatures, when you're looking for that epic scale or massed infantry scale, is you want slight variation in each of the miniatures. So whenever you look at them in mass, like on the entire base, it looks like sufficiently random. So say, oh wow, that's a whole mass of like individual miniatures, as opposed to just individual kind of like bases with 5 miniatures each. So we're gonna try to paint a lot of the miniatures on each base a little bit differently. Use similar colors, but vary them in a way that makes it look a little bit more natural. Okay, so here's the brush we're gonna start with here, and you can see that this is just this is actually a very good brand for panel or canvas painting called Liquitex. It's just one of their smaller brushes, though. It's called Liquitex Basics. As you can see, I use the brush, quite a bit. It's a little bit stained, but that's fine. That's fine. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just apply a couple of different colors on some of these miniatures, kind of at random. And because they're peasants, these are going to be peasant colors. So I've got a little bit of green. Of course, this is Luftwaffe camo green. And then we have German camo medium brown, and we have German camo beige. These are from like Vallejo's World War II line, but all just like great little colors. I've had them on the shelf for a while. Good opportunity to use them because these are kind of like peasant-y colors. They're not like nobles, which have like bright, beautiful colors. They just have basic earth tones, and they've just picked up literally pitchforks and sickles to help fight the invader. So let's just see what these colors look like. So just a little bit of the what is this? So we'll go light to dark. So this is this is just like a little beige, and then we'll put a little bit on our brush. Nice thing about Vallejo colors is they're already very well like watered down. And so look, I'm just applying it not haphazardly, but just onto the miniature. You can see that I don't dip my brush in water before I start painting, because I like color density and I can fix any mistakes later. So here we go. And so you can see kind of what this miniature is looking like. He's got a hood on the back. So hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing here. You see how that paint just kind of goes on? And I'm just being, quick about it, but not too quick. There we go. So we have his smock colored out. There you go. You can see that. So I'm going to maybe make this one kind of a similar color. This guy has a hood. So it's hard to tell at this scale. Is that a hood? I'm going to say, yeah, that's a hood. Or is it just some extra hair? So I'm just, quickly applying color. And, I'm doing it quickly. I'm trying to keep it neat, but I know that some other steps down the road, I can clean up any mistakes I made. So there you go. So we have 2 out of these 5 miniatures done. And let's do this guy too. He's got a big sickle that he's gonna beat someone silly with. So we'll do that too. So anyway, we've applied some quick color there. Perfect. Going over it, it takes a couple of coats, especially on metal. It takes a couple of coats. So there you go. So we have some little beige there. So we have 3 of those 5 colored beige. Maybe we'll do 2 of these guys. So do that. 10 millimeter, you can spend as much time on it as you want. I mean, you could spend a week on these 5 little bases and, really start picking out the details. And the nice thing about miniature painting is that, you can get them done quickly, just kind of like I'm doing. But then you can come back later and, hey, look, I'm gonna add some more details and this and that. So you can like kind of take your time after you've got the initial color on. So let's see, maybe this guy also has a kind of a beige look to him. Okay, that's good, and maybe I'll do the guy at the end too. Beige is such a generic color, and we can alter this color in a way that can make some of the beige darker, some of it lighter. So just trying to get some quick paint on these guys. It's funny, I'm noticing that whenever you are making a video, you kind of like subconsciously rush a little bit. So in the interest of like, not boring you guys, but you can spend as much time or as little time doing this as you want. Obviously, like most things, I mean, the more you do it, the faster you'll become, and you kind of learn like little tips and tricks, I guess. Not just tricks on how to apply the paint or those things, but even like funny things. Like if you just paint the same miniature over and over again, you quickly learn, hey, if I can turn it this way, it lets me get to that section easier. So that's kind of like that's kind of interesting. So we have the last base for the beige, and then this guy is going to be beige. Put a little color on his back also. And remember, you're not going to be looking at these miniatures at this, distance. You're going to be looking at them from like, 4, 5, 6 feet off, on a wargaming table or on a shelf or something like that, And of course, you can certainly pick them up and look at them more closely, but you're looking for the effect of, well, I'm looking for the effect of, these are really nicely painted, but in mass, not individually, you have that beautiful effect of realism by the variations on the miniature. Okay, and so we randomly put a little bit of that beige on there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the next darker color. This is the, what is this now? Again, the German camo medium brown. Big fan of the German camos today. And then I'm going to just put that here. Okay, it's not like, I don't do a great job with like my paint. So let's see what this does. So you can see it's like separated a little bit. I haven't washed my brush or anything. So the brush is still nice and supple. And so let's add this to a couple and let's see if it's a nice color difference. It is. That looks really good. So you can see that kind of that brown. Okay. All right, we're cruising. Okay, so I've got a little brown, a little beige. And then actually, I think everything I haven't done beige, I'm going to do in this brown because that green I can use as kind of like a highlight color. And I'm not like obsessing about slight differences in my paint because Again, I'm looking at the effect of this at a distance. Okay, perfect. So far, so good. There we go. The other thing that's hard on videos is making conversation when you're doing something that's kind of like repetitive. You know, it's like whenever I paint, and maybe some of you guys out there that have someone else you live with, you know, you'll set up like a little painting station over there by the television, and then you can carry on a conversation with someone, and then, you know, do all those things while you're painting. So you can watch TV, or you can, you know, do whatever you want. So, but yeah, I guess if I would tell you one big thing is you need to just enjoy the process if possible. And certainly the better you are at it, the more you will enjoy it. But the reality is that it's not like look at this, look at this miniature right here. You see how you can see the separation between the yellow and the brown because the paint wasn't fully mixed. It's been sitting on my shelf for a long time. I thought this would be a good excuse to use it. I'm not stressed about that because that creates that color variation at that distance. But you know, I mean, that's easier to not worry about at 10 millimeters. At 28 millimeters or larger, then it becomes a little bit more of an issue. So you kind of, you know, you have to kind of, it depends on what you're painting, really, how stressed you need to be about the paint or the brush techniques. So, you know, these early steps, we're just trying to apply some color to the model. Just get some color on there, and then there are multiple steps you can use to clean up, add highlights, add detail. But for now, look, we've immediately sort of painted all the models with either that beige or a little bit of brown. Perfect. I'm just going over a couple of them. Trying to intensify the color. And I haven't dipped my brush in water yet. Haven't dried my brush, haven't dipped my brush. It's not a big deal. So this is not a bad set to look at. So we have a brown, beige, 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 brown, kind of random. So the next step we want to do is, and this really brings the miniature to life, is you want to pick out the skins. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 faces, some hands and arms, and some legs. And so you'll see once we add some skin tone to that, you know, you can really see the difference, okay? I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna grab some skin tone paint, and I'll be right back, promise, okay?